We made it into Street Machine. The tonner is in the new mag. Now, I'm so happy because I've been wanting to be in this magazine ever since I was a little kid, and to have my dreams come true is pretty special. Hopefully one day we'll have a proper feature, but for now, I'm very stoked with that. The next thing we need to do is weld up the skin of the roof. Now, I was a little bit nervous with this because it is super thin sheet metal. I was planning on getting one of my mates to come out and help me weld it up. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it, so I'm gonna have to tackle it myself. It is probably a better idea for me to learn. So let's give it a crack and let's see how we go. Because it is super thin and when there's a bit of a gap, it is going to shrink and pull itself in. Now, I'd already done it once, but what had happened was the gap had shrunk so tight that there was actually no room at all. If I was to weld it up the way it was, there'd be no penetration and I'd basically grind it all off and there'd be no weld holding it in place. Definitely lots of learning because I've never really worked with anything this thin. What I've done is I've cut those tacks back out and I have tacked it again, but this time I've cut in between all those tacks just to make the gap a little bit bigger. One thing that I've changed from what I normally do when I'm welding sheet metal is air, and I've been told that if you let it cool down by itself naturally, it won't warp as much. It seems to be working all right now without doing that, because what I've been doing is I've been doing kind of like a couple tacks here and then moving it around, spreading the heat. It actually hasn't lost its shape. That was basically the main thing that I was worried about, is having big warpages. The roof is officially done and I could not be more happy with how it turned out. It went exactly how I wanted it to go. For me to prove to myself that I could do this is a great feeling, because I was not feeling super confident. I knew that as soon as I warped this, there was not really any going back. I'm really stoked with how it turned out. We're going to continue on with what we did in the last episode where we made these corners nice and flat. So we're going to make this corner super smooth by welding this up and having one nice smooth and flowing corner. Now that is all welded up, I reckon it looks way smoother. I will obviously be putting a skimmer filler on that just to smoothen it off and sharpen it up, but I'm pretty happy with that. I reckon it's a bit of a subtle way to say that you have done a little bit of custom tweak on it, and yeah, it definitely matches that back corner now that I've done it. This is my freshly rebuilt Aussie 4-speed transmission, and I cannot thank my good mate Lucas and his dad Rob enough for doing this for me. He has been very, very kind and done this for free to help support the build. And Rob specializes in transmissions and he has built many of these. I didn't know much about these transmissions until Rob told me about them and made me understand how they work a little bit, so I'm really grateful for that. This was actually a really good transmission, but Rob wanted to tear it down just to make sure everything was looking good for peace of mind, and he found that on the lay shaft where the hardener goes, that there was a little bit flaking off. Now, I don't know too much about this. It would probably be better if he was saying this, but by the time you replace that lay shaft, it will end up being cheaper than having to rebuild the whole transmission once that is broken. So I'm really grateful that he gave me some advice on what to do with that. And yeah, he's freshly redone the transmission and honestly, it is so nice. So this transmission is ready to go straight in the tonner. I'm pretty lucky to have people in my life that can give me a hand with this. And oh yeah, I really cannot thank Lucas and Rob enough for doing this for me. So yeah, I'll definitely be taking you for a spin once it is done. And yeah, thanks a lot. I'm honestly quite surprised how smooth these gears are. Rob, you've done a great job. So the other night, Dad and I decided to go through some of the boxes that we have with parts in them just to see what we have and what we're working with. So there is still lots of things that we do need to get for the tonner before it is fully complete, but that's just stuff I'm going to worry about in the future when I get to it. We've seriously got like 8 months until this car needs to be done, and yeah, it's coming quick, but I need to feel like I've accomplished something. So I'm going to get cracking with the chassis now. You can see it is missing this back piece. That is what we are going to weld in today. We've got parts everywhere, and we're just made a little bit of room just to try and get this working. The reason why that is missing is because we cut it out. There had been an impact and had basically pulled this in a little bit. It wasn't major, so there's no actual structural damage to the chassis, but this back piece just comes off quite easily. This is the piece that we're going to replace and weld back into the chassis. All it really needs is a clean up, and there's a little bit of surface rust, but it should be alright. We'll clean it all up and give it a lick of paint. Now we can finally start welding in the chassis. So you can see with the back of this one, when I started the weld, I started on a bit of an angle and then kind of turned it out. So that is why it is not straight. I'm trying to get better at having a straight and consistent bead. I mean, this one is a lot more consistent, a lot more straight, but the problem is my settings aren't super great, and it seems to be sitting on top a little bit, but it is super thick metal, and at the end of the day it is in there solid, but I'm just being a little bit fussy because I want to try and get nice looking welds, but they look fine. Now that the top ones are all welded up, I've got to figure out how to weld up underneath there. So wish me luck, and I really hope I don't get any hot embers falling on my face, because that's happened before and I've actually got a few little freckles from it, but I do not want that to happen again. What do I want to do? Oh. Let's see how we go with this one. Shit. Fuck, it got me good. Got me really good. So last night I was out here till about 10:30 finishing off the chassis, and now that that is all done, the chassis is fully complete, and because we got the roof finished up, the cab is fully complete, so we're moving forward. There's seriously not much left to do. As you can see, underneath needs a bit of attention, and that is exactly what we need to do, except spell it right. When I started bare metaling the floor pan, I just wired everything to clean off all the dust. That doesn't get it down to bare metal. It took way too long. I was using flapper discs, but still wasn't really working too well. And today I found these, and it is a strip disc. Now, it was hiding, tucked away, and I found it, and I used it, and it just went straight through to bare metal, and it worked absolutely perfect. It is working well, and I'm stoked that I found something that works. I ended up going to the shops. I grabbed the fresh one. Now, it is already quite worn because this is all of what we have done so far, and it is just looking unreal. Compared to what it was looking like at the start, I'm really happy with that. I just want to say with that last video, I do respect my neighbours, and I'm very grateful that they let me do the sort of things that I do. I've never had any noise complaints. That one night where I was out here pretty late working on the car was just one incident. That doesn't happen super often. You get the occasional late night where you want to get something done, but I was pretty stoked to get that floor pan done because that was one thing that I really just wanted to tick off. I did speak to them the next day and they were okay with it. I'm gonna get the cab out in the sun and let's see how she looks one last time before we start stripping her down to bare metal. I've started off by bare metaling the B pillars on the cab. Now, we did find there were a few dents that were filled with bog that we couldn't see before we bare metal it. So my brother Jack gave me a hand doing some dent pulling on that. So everything is looking really straight and she's basically ready to go. So I've got to still bare metal a few other things. So I'll leave that for a future episode, but for now, I've got majority of it bare metaled. And yeah, we'll be getting ready for epoxy, which is really exciting. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm not going to bare metal everything just yet because there's still a fair bit to do, and I'll save that for a future episode. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers. Oh, I cannot wait to be driving this car.